So I've known David Kalt for about a year, and he's honestly an amazing entrepreneur. He's done so many cool things, from optionsXpress to Reverb that he sold to Etsy for more than $250 million, to Pangobooks. And in my conversation with David, we talk about the early days of Reverb, how he solved the chicken and the egg issue, when, how, if to take in money as an entrepreneur. And of course, we also talk about AI and how we are probably all going to be using AI agents in a few years. So if you're into entrepreneurship or even into marketplace building, I really encourage you to watch this one whenever you have time. Hey guys, welcome to my interview with David Kalt. So David Kalt, thank you so much, first of all, for joining. David Kalt, he is a serial marketplace entrepreneur, and he started out building Reverb that he actually ended up selling to Etsy for more than $250 million, I believe, which is amazing, right? And since then, he also started another marketplace, which is called Pangobooks, which is a marketplace for buying and selling used books. So super, super interesting. And I'm so glad to have you here, David. Thank you so much for joining. And let's start maybe with you giving a quick intro about yourself and then how you came up with the idea for Reverb back in the days.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. I love sharing my story because it's a story of real passion, entrepreneurship. When I got started, there was no concept of an indie hacker or a solopreneur, but that's kind of what I was. I mean, I started in the 90s, I wanted to be a record producer, a recording engineer, but I quickly realized it was hard to make a living in the 90s and I wasn't that great at it. So I pivoted to software. I started writing code in 91, 92, and I started my first software company in the travel space. I built a CRM for travel and tour companies. It was pretty successful. Within 4 or 5 years, I was able to sell that business for a few $1,000,000 and then able to pivot into another industry that I was passionate about, which was trading stocks and options.
Okay.
So I lost, of that $2,000,000, I probably lost most of it trading options at Charles Schwab, betting against internet stocks in 1998. I was 2 years too early, and the odds were stacked against the retail investor to trade options. So I pivoted to starting an online broker in 2000, focused on options trading. And we were the first brokerage that did that. And once again, it was trying to solve a problem, a pain point that I had experienced of why would I do this? Because all the online brokers at the time in the US, Ameritrade, Charles Schwab, E-Trade, Fidelity, none of them were focused on options trading, and it was really hard for a retail investor to get anything. Like today, Robinhood is massive, this options trading platform, but it wouldn't have existed had I not done what I did 20 years ago with optionsXpress. optionsXpress made retail trading easy for the retail investor. I did that, raised $2 million, was profitable within a year and a half, small engineering team, really intense product build, took it public in 2005 for $1.5 billion, $2 billion. Only raised $2 million. Like for people today, that's like unheard of. We ended up being extremely profitable, sold to Charles Schwab in 2010 for a little over $1 billion. But that was my experience of really lean. Before the lean startup was even written, this is in 2000, this idea of hiring great engineers and building great product, right? So then I sell that, I leave optionsXpress, I buy a guitar store. That was like my passion, getting back into music. I start buying and selling guitars on eBay. And I felt the same pain that I experienced 10 years earlier buying and selling options in an online brokerage. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way. I was inspired by Etsy, the marketplace for creators, people who craft and create things. And I was like, the musicians are the exact same community. We need our own eBay. Musicians hate eBay. It's a very difficult environment for them to work in. So I launched Reverb in 2012 from my guitar store. So it's not like idea. It's like, you got to get into it. You have to like really go down that rabbit hole. So like I lost $2 million trading options, knew that there was a product market misfit, right? I owned a guitar store and I was buying and selling on eBay, and I heard how bad the product was a misfit for eBay. Bad customer service, bad pricing, bad everything. That's what my motivated. When I hear people about product market fit, I'm like, that's bullshit. It's product market misfit.
Yep. And I love that because like there was definitely also what you call founder fit, right? Because I love like you had your own physical store at that time, right? like you must have known everything about that industry, right? Which is amazing, right? But so did you take it? Did you just come up with the money then at that time yourself, or like how long did it take you to, like really feel some kind of traction there, right? Because that's always the the problem for many, especially solo founders out there, right? You build an MVP and then you launch it somewhere, but then nothing happens. And especially for marketplaces, right? It can take a long time to actually get anything going, right? Because you usually have to get both sides to connect, right? So, like, when did you first feel that that there was something here for sure? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the good thing about like the solopreneur movement, which I'm a big believer and big backer of, I back a lot of really great businesses, is that it's allowing people to go out there and put themselves out there and try to create great product, right? So I'm a believer in in building great product, and that in many cases, great product can win with great marketing and with resilience, right?
Yep.
So you do have to like prove it out on a small scale before you would do it. The other bias that I have, I'm extremely opinionated, as you're all going to find from this interview, is the other bias I have is that I only take other people's money when I'm going to make them money. And too many entrepreneurs and solo founders are like, oh, I'm going to raise money, and then if it fails, it fails. I made
Yep.
my optionsXpress investors 150 times their money in 4 years. Okay. It's changed people's lives, not just institutional investors like angel investors. Reverb investors made 12 times their money in 6 years, right? So the
But
idea is
that's
that you take,
amazing. But that's I guess like easier to say than like it's amazing that you managed to do that, right? Because I
well,
guess
you
like
got to
most
prove it out.
entrepreneurs that
Yeah.
actually take in money, they also expect, I guess, to, well, not everyone, I guess, right? But like like they hope and maybe they have some kind of vision
Study the
for
great though.
actually like returning the money back, right? But you must have had like some really clear visions about there's definitely something there. I'm gonna go for it.
Well, that's why back to the founding of Reverb is having had that success. I had
Uh-huh.
money, I had capital. I put $1 million into Reverb to get started. So yeah, okay, go, lucky me. Well, not really lucky me because I had nothing when I started my first software company, and I had nothing when I started OptionsXpress after I lost
Yep.
$2 million. So like, it's not luck when you
No.
actually have conviction, right? So,
Uh-huh.
but to your point is, I wasn't going to go put $10 million into Reverb. I put $1
No.
million. I hired one engineer. I hired one content person. Then I hired another engineer. I went
Uh-huh.
a year and a half before I took a penny from a friend or a family. A year and a half to literally prove out that my thesis that musicians would like something better than eBay. That was my thesis,
Yep.
that I could build that and build that community. And after that year and a half, I saw not only the customer acquisition at a reasonable price, but I saw the retention and I saw the
Uh-huh.
growth of inventory. I saw both the supply and the demand grow in a way that I knew that I was sparking some emotion with people. And
Yep.
I was able to invest in content and see an SEO flywheel work. So there were multiple facets. That's when I raised money. And I said at a
Got
$10
it.
million valuation, I didn't sell the moon. I sold, I'm going to compete with eBay and grow this to 50 million in GMS and
Yep.
around 10 million in revenue. And if you invested a $10 million valuation, I guarantee you won't lose money because these are friends and family. These are not institutional investors.
Uh-huh.
I raised another $2 to $4 million. Then I got it to the next point where it was 35 million in GMS, then 100 million in GMS. We're doing like 6 million in revenue.
Yeah.
Then I raised 25 million of institutional money. People that were late stage investors in OptionsXpress wrote
Yep.
me a $25 million check and said, let's go. Let's see how big we can do this. And then Reverbs does over $1 billion in GMS today. Etsy just
Amazing.
sold it, actually. They
I
owned it
heard
for
that.
6 years. They just sold it to indirectly to Fender. It's not Fender. It's
Okay.
the owners of
Yeah.
Fender.
Yeah. Interesting.
But for much a lower price than we sold it, not because it didn't grow. It actually grew substantially. And this is another lesson in the marketplace world.
Mm-hmm.
It's sometimes timing is important. Like when I sold it to Etsy, Etsy was trading at 8 times revenue, and
Uh-huh.
Reverb was trading at, they bought us for like 5 or 6 times revenue. And now Etsy trades at 2 times revenue.
Is
And
that
they sold
why
Reverb
is
for
that
less
why
than
is
one
that? Is
times
that
revenue.
just the market, the market at
Growth.
the moment, or?
Growth.
Okay.
What
Yeah.
one, marketplaces are not as sexy. They are
No.
not sexy
No.
businesses. AI is where all
Mm-hmm.
the
That's all
excitement
the
and the
hype there.
hype is.
Yeah.
Marketplaces have become more commoditized, like what an e-commerce business was 15 years ago. See, when I was starting marketplaces, the reason why investors loved them is no inventory, no
Hmm.
warehouses. Like,
Yep.
wow, this is great. Now marketplaces have all sorts of other costs associated with them. Lots of engineers, lots of marketers, lots of customer service. So
Exactly.
I'm looking at this next wave of marketplaces, and that's kind of where I am with Pangobooks, of this next wave of super lean, automated, highly AI generated in terms of building great content, great engineering, great product
Hmm.
experience, really lean team. And that
Yep.
is how you're going to disrupt the prior disruptors, the Reverbs of the world, disrupting them with totally new architecture and platforms that can really
Exactly.
scale and do things that those platforms just are going to become legacy.
Exactly. But I just want to go back, actually, David, to your very beginning again of Reverb, right? So first of all, how long did it take you to become profitable? And then secondly, like, how did you, in the very beginning, like, so how did you, like solve the chicken and the egg problem there, right? So, and I guess on Reverb, every time you got a seller, that's also kind of a buyer, isn't it? It's like, so you didn't have the problem of, having two completely different kinds of people to find. So I could imagine that it is similar to Pangobooks. If you get a
Buyers to
seller,
sellers. Yeah.
that's also a potential buyer, which is always good on marketplace, right? But can you talk a little bit about that?
So yeah, so like Pango's a little different because it's peer to peer. Reverb was more B2C and B2B, meaning that it was a dealer community. So there's a lot
Hmm.
of music dealers who sell for a living. They have storefronts, and there's individual musicians.
Hmm.
Remember, after I had my Options Express experience, what did I do? I bought a guitar store. It was like my lifetime dream to own a guitar store. Well, I built
Hmm.
Real Reverb with the vision that everybody wants to own a guitar store.
Yep.
And you can own a guitar store on Reverb and you can literally market to the world. I'll take care of the marketing and bring in the customers. So like that was the vision. But I needed dealers in order to get enough inventory in the beginning to make it legitimate so that people would say,
Exactly.
wow, look at all this inventory. So I needed to find that balance between professional sellers and peer-to-peer sellers. So
And
Reverb is
yeah.
very much a hybrid.
And how,
Hybrid.
how did you get like the first, let's say, 10 sellers? How did you
Well,
just, did
it
you
was
call them
actually a
or?
conflict. I was
Yeah.
actually disadvantaged because I owned this store called Chicago Music Exchange, which was a
Hmm.
legendary store that I had bought. It was not like a little store I bought. It was a major store in Chicago.
Okay. Yep.
I I had to convince kind of my competitors that Reverb was a completely separate business, which it was. I had
Uh-huh.
outside investors. It was not part of Chicago Music Exchange. So it was actually a different challenge than maybe other entrepreneurs have. But I was able to convince that and I was able to actually build the trust that Reverb was not out there to help Chicago Music Exchange. It was just the opposite. Reverb was
Yep.
kind of there actually to disrupt the dealer network and to make it more fair for musicians. So my mission wasn't to necessarily help dealers, although dealers begrudgingly joined Reverb and left eBay. It was more about helping musicians get a better price when they sold and bought an instrument. And I'm a big economics guy. Remember, I came from the options trading
Yep.
world.
Yep. Yep.
It's about not about like high take rates. It's about low take rates and big volumes. And the way you get big volumes is by compressing the buy and the sell, like making it as transparent as possible. And that was what was the big thing that was missing in the music things. Musicians were selling their used instrument for 50 cents on the dollar. Dealers were then marking them up 100% and they were taking months to sell. What I did is I said, no, if like instead of you getting 400 and someone else trying to get 700 for it, what if everyone got between 6 and 650 for it and it sold all day long? What if you didn't need to hoard your musical instrument and store it because you were like afraid it was going to be so hard to get and you could always buy what you wanted right now and unload what you didn't want? Like that
Exactly.
was my dream, is true liquidity. And that requires a price guide. That requires good data feeds of that information. That requires content teaching people how to value instrument. So
Uh-huh.
I was spending a lot of money. And when you say like, how did I get profitable? Options Express was profitable within 18 months. Reverb, until I sold it to Etsy, it was barely break even when we sold it to Etsy.
Ah,
But
okay. Okay.
it wasn't trying to be be profitable. It was growth. I
It
mean,
was just growth.
it grew to 700 million in 5 years of sales and 50 million of revenue. And it took 50 million of capital. I mean, I raised almost 45 million of capital. A lot of that money
Right.
went to Google AdWords. A lot of
Yeah.
that money went to Google AdWords.
And does
I'm
does
not
that
like
mean,
sitting.
now does that also mean that like from day one, did you have, like, was that your goal all the time? Was it to actually eventually, you knew you're gonna, okay, I'm gonna spend 5, 10 years on this and then I'm gonna sell it? or was it to actually become profitable at some point? Do you know what I mean? So
It's a
some
really good
entrepreneurs
question. Yeah.
they say from day one, okay, our goal is to sell this whatever they're building in 5 years, right? Was that your goal all the time?
Well, well, I mean, my goal was I was super passionate about building this musician marketplace. And then after I raised the first few $1 million, I was like, okay, I can compete with eBay. And then it was like, wow, this is global. I had offices in Japan, I had offices in Amsterdam. Like this is an international business. This could be much bigger than 100 million. This could be a
Yeah.
billion, maybe even
Hmm.
2 billion. So
Hmm.
then I raised more money. And once you raise money, I had a fiduciary responsibility to make my investors money, period. That is your
Yep.
job. My job is to make investors money. They have entrusted in me. I am a fiduciary, and I did that. After 6 years, it was clear that that 40 million that I raised, that I could get a good return on it. And I was like 54 at the time or something. I was like, yeah, 53, 54, 52, something like that. I
Something
was
like
like, it's
that.
time. I've had fun. This is a good run. It's
Yep.
time. Sees a good home for this. And I was ready to sell it. Now, it doesn't mean that like, it was also because there was 250 employees. I had outside investors. I think part of my responsibility is to find an exit. I'm
Yep.
taking a very different approach with Pango. Pango is way more, I want to run this profitably. I want to run it for many, many years. Books aren't going away. Books are coming back. And I
Yep.
believe that peer to peer, without professional sellers, without raising tons of outside money, that with a lean team, I can run this for a long, long time. I didn't have that same conviction, 19, that I wanted to run that business for a long time. I felt like it would take more engineers, more marketers, and it was just this never ending investment in people
Yeah.
that
Yep.
doesn't necessarily correlate to a high return for investors.
Got it.
And
Got it.
that's kind of why marketplaces aren't getting as high of values as they were.
Yeah. And by the way, for the sale, right? So how did that actually happen? Did they reach out to you? Did you know someone at Etsy? You know, like how did you manage to sell it?
No banker. I reached out to the CEO, built a
Okay.
friendship with him just within 6 months. And then I was reasonable. I was like, I've grown this business. I think it's very complimentary. Had just been there for a year and a half. He had spent time at eBay. He had spent time at Josh is an extremely talented corporate entrepreneur, built
Yep.
really big businesses. So this was the idea of making it a good acquisition. Acquisitions are challenging both for the buyer and the seller. It's a
Uh-huh.
real intense moment to get to a deal, right?
Yep.
So there's a real human element in doing it. And Josh and I hit it off, and I was like, I'm super transparent. Here's the business. I think it could fit really well within your business. And we were able to get a deal done in 4 months. Um,
Amazing.
but yes, I reached out. There was no banker. I had
Okay.
built it with Etsy in mind, not necessarily to sell it. I had traded options at Charles Schwab, lost $2 million. Charles Schwab ultimately bought the business. Like there's some interesting parallels there in
Yeah,
terms
because
of
you're also
where
like
my
it in the beginning of the interview. I mean, you were mentioning that to yourself, right? Actually, before you started building Reverb, right? And then they ended up actually buying you, right? So it's I can kind of hear that you had that at least somewhere in your mind all along, right?
Well, my career hasn't been about like building moonshots, like revolutionary new technology. I've taken existing things and found different niches for them and
Hmm.
been able to build really big, businesses around that by going really deep into the rabbit hole and trying to figure out why would musicians want their own version of eBay? Why should Pango Books exist? Like I'm in this sort of like trying to find those sort of special moments
Uh-huh.
about why this product should exist. So it becomes much more about finding inspiration from other products, right? So Schwab
Yep.
was a huge inspiration for OptionsXpress. Etsy was a huge inspiration for Reverb. I think Poshmark and Depop were more
Uh-huh.
inspirational for and Vinted for Pango Books, which is more about individuals, not about professionals, taking photos on your phone, dropping it in a mailbox
Yep.
and finding a buyer, and community of people sharing clothing and books with like-minded people.
And for Pango Books, right? So you were the
Didn't
original
found Pango.
founder,
I
or
didn't
did you
find
did
Pango.
you buy
No,
your way into it? Okay.
no,
Okay.
I'm
Got it.
not.
Got
I
it. Got
bought
it.
my
Okay.
So my
Got it.
story there is I backed the founder, amazing, amazing entrepreneur and
Yep. And
really
he's still there.
amazing engineer, Grant. He's still a shareholder.
Okay.
I bought out a good portion of his shares, but he's gone on to do some AI stuff. But he's the inspiration and he, found this business. I kind of joined to help him grow it. in
Yep.
22 after a year of him getting it off the ground. I was really impressed how scrappy he was and how DIY he was. He built this really lean, and as I've been saying, like lean
Yep.
to me is everything, right? So he also mentored me to start coding again. And that's where my real passion is. And that's where I'm like
Yep.
super excited about going forward. So he was actually mentoring me to like Reverb was built in Rails. And then I was
In
like
Rails.
really
Okay.
intrigued by Next.js and the whole
So
JavaScript,
Pangobooks is Next.js or?
Next.js and React
Yep.
Native on the app side. 70% of our usage is in our app. So
Yeah.
while the web is interesting and you're demoing that, that's kind of cool. But like the app is kind of where a lot of the magic happens.
Yep.
Um, and there is you got go to the app store or yeah
Yeah,
maybe
I was just actually gonna ask for
it
this one, right? Because I like this, right? So how does it like so when so you take a photo of a book and then you take a photo of the barcode, right? So how does it actually work technically there, right? So that then you have like some kind of library you're using for finding the what's it called, the IBAN number, and then you make
the
an API
ISBN, yeah.
call and then it's like to a database and then you get all the information back, or how does it work?
A combination, yeah.
Yeah.
The ISBN code. By now we have enough data we could probably actually just from the front cover know if it's a hardcover or a paperback
Yep.
and know the exact book. We still
Yep.
use the ISBN for more because people want to know which version it was. People get
Yep.
really technical with it. But within like 10 seconds, you can list a book. And that was the key to be able to get people to bring their inventory. We get 10 to 15,000 books a day listed. We're doing
That's a lot.
a little over 1,200,000 or 1,300,000 a month in sales. And we have a 20% take rate. So it's like a reasonably good profitable business. Most of our people are literally selling their books to buy more books, right? And they're buying them on Pango and they're selling them on Pango, or they're people that like to go buy new books and then they want to sell it and recoup some of the money so that they can like buy more new books, right? So
Amazing, amazing.
it
And
really is
you
sustainable.
yeah, exactly. And you have is it you it seems like you have two kinds of sellers, right? So you have the the individual one, but then you also do you have like actual bookstores as well, or is it
We have a
like this
few.
one is
We have a
a
few people with like 20,000. They have 120 books. Most of them, some of them, we have some people with like 10,000, 20,000 books, but not like massive stores. These are more
okay,
like what
okay.
we would call online sellers, people that maybe sell on eBay and they sell on other platforms and,
Yep,
and
yep.
they're professional. But then most of our people are just individuals and it's a real community. So you want to follow the people who necessarily
Exactly.
read the types of books that you do because the real savings is when you buy two or three books from one seller, because then the shipping gets really inexpensive. James Bond books.
That's something, right?
This is our
Have to
this
test
is
this
our
one, right?
AI agent. Yeah,
By
this
the way,
is our
so what are
AI
you using here?
LLM.
I because I remember when I first looked at Pangobooks a year ago, I think. So you already had this AI assistant here, right? So how
Uh-huh,
does this
uh-huh.
this one work technically?
It works. It's built on top of OpenAI. It's using
Okay.
LLM, and we upload our inventory, and we find ways, using different JSON files to sort of like make our LLM work well for us, and do things. It's not as fast. Like now, we're finding some interesting AI LLM search engine
Uh-huh.
capability where we can build like full language, like find me books under $5, James Bond books under $5 from the same seller. And
Yep.
then we would, rather than having to do an LLM typical prompt response type thing, it'll
Uh-huh.
literally hit a search engine, like decode that, that sentence,
Yeah.
that prompt, and then get an instantaneous search, right? So that's kind of that's kind of where it's going, where it's instead of this sort of open AI ChatGPT kind of mode where it's really just like more embedded AI
Yeah.
and obviously AI for me is way more in terms of us being able to build product and innovate quick and
Yeah.
improve the overall
Yep. Yep. Yep.
experience, the inventory, et cetera.
No, no, but it's an amazing marketplace to be honest. And you have so many like cool small features that are just like niche for this marketplace, which I love, right? And then you can just I love marketplace where you just feel the community there, right? That's so important, right? So it's like it's amazing, yeah. And so do you have like an end goal for Pango Books?
Well, I right now we're US only, so right, and the US is a pretty big market. I mean, 25 billion books, physical books, $25 billion a year are produced in physical books. So the used market is some fraction of that, right?
Yep.
It's in the 5 to $10 billion, just in the US. So
Uh-huh.
globally, like used books is a big market and it's very fragmented. People can buy books anywhere, right?
Yep.
Bookstores, you can buy them on eBay, you can buy them on Mercari. Like, books are everywhere. We want to figure out how to be the peer-to-peer place where people who want to buy and sell books. We're not so much about rare books. We're way more about what's current books.
Uh-huh.
Our average order value is around $11, $12, and they're usually it's highly focused on fiction,
Uh-huh.
romance, fantasy, mystery, suspense thriller, those
Uh-huh.
types of books, but tends to be hardcover. People want them in good condition. They want to buy them from another reader. They love
Yep.
sustainability. Like those are the characteristics that make Reverb special in the community. I want
Yep.
to do that. I want to do that in Europe. I want to do it in Asia. I want to do it in Australia. I want to find other markets where we can expand Pango cost effectively and take what we built and introduce it in a more global basis. And I want to keep running it. I'm 58 years old. I've never had more fun being that deep into the product without having dozens of engineers. I have one other engineer I work with. I probably want to get another engineer when I get, when we double in size, and then maybe another when we've tripled in size. So it's like, it's a definitely more calculated. I'm working really hard, but really smart. I've got an amazing customer service team, got really sharp marketing team, but it's really lean and it's
Uh-huh.
really fun. In my career, as my teams have grown, I have not been as great a leader for 300 people as I am for like 10 or 20. So like this to me is about how to keep it lean, but still grow and
But
keep
that's
it
also that's a good,
sustainable.
like you are definitely a, like a leader and person who, yourself really well, right? Because I was listening to actually one of the, well, I think all the YouTube interviews you ever done, right? This weekend. And I saw in one of the interviews actually that you were saying that, like you grew Rework to what was like 250 people, and they were like, okay, now I'm actually maybe not the best CEO for the next phase, you know what I mean? Which I really liked, right? Because
Sure.
like being like this kind of founder who starts everything up with like themselves or just with a couple of other people, and then suddenly having 250 people on your team, that's very different daily task you're doing. So
Yeah.
no, I really like that. I really like that.
Appreciate that. Yeah, no, it's like a lot of people, it's like, we all want to grow and mature, right? Like part of
Uh-huh.
life is interesting when you are challenging yourself to
Yep.
like, I saw this great Ernest Hemingway quote, and I'm going to totally misquote it, but it's something like nobility is not comparing yourself to others. No, true nobility is comparing yourself to your prior self, right?
Exactly. I
And
love that.
I've always lived that in the sense that it's like, how am I better this year? And like where I'm getting better with Pango is
Mhm.
like, one, I'm getting like really better at how to be smart about my engineering, my product, the
Yep.
marketing, and the
Yep.
customer service by really understanding more of that and not
Uh-huh.
just hiring people.
Yep.
I have people that work with me, but I'm really trying to like solve problems
Yep.
every
Yep.
day
Yep.
and
Yep.
get better at that is to me, that's where the growth is.
Exactly. And for like, so for marketplace entrepreneurs out there, do you have any recommendations for them on, maybe how to start out, but also making sure that there's actually, they might have some kind of idea there, but actually try and somehow make sure that there's something there before they just keep on using years and years on
Yeah.
something, right? Like, do you have any recommendations for upcoming marketplace developers?
I do. I believe that I do believe in resilience and like you got to
Uh-huh.
stick with it because most of these businesses don't take off right away. The ones that
Yep.
do, great, but
Hmm.
most of them don't, and they require deeper and deeper and deeper. And I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs that are just ready to throw in the towel and they
Uh-huh.
have paying customers and they have
Uh-huh.
like a good SaaS product or they have a good marketplace. It's
Hmm.
just they haven't figured out that next inflection. And it's like
Uh-huh.
sometimes it might be 1,000 little things and you
Yep.
have to have enough conviction and desire that you're willing to go do all those little things that make the
Yep.
product better and better every day and
Uh-huh.
keep improving it, improving the customer experience and all that. If you have that conviction and you're seeing the snowball get a little bigger, instead of 1,000 active users, there's 1,200, then there's 1,400, there's 1,600. That should be signal enough to to be resilient.
Yep.
If it's like you're still doing all these things and you're constantly improving the product, you're listening to the customers, you're seeing the Zendesk or the intercom feedback, and you're like, I'm going to go fix that. Like you're doing that and you're not seeing stickiness,
Uh-huh.
well, then maybe it isn't. Maybe it isn't a bigger market. Maybe
Yep.
you just discovered a small little opportunity. But it's seeing those correlation between the effort you're putting into and
Uh-huh.
the growth of that, right?
Yep.
That to me is where the true conviction lies, where you're willing to like beg, borrow, or steal to keep growing that, right?
Yep. Yep. I love that.
And it's hard. It's hard. I do force people to entrepreneurs and not just in marketplaces to challenge themselves to say, how am I going to reach more people? If you found 5 people, 500, 5,000 that love what you built, there's
Uh-huh.
something special about that. And
Definitely.
if you believe that there's 50,000 more of them,
Uh-huh.
you've got to work really hard to get there, to get
Yep.
that without spending tons of money on marketing.
No,
But
but
you got to
it's
get to
also
those
interesting.
first five or 50 customers, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But it's interesting with the areas that you chose, right? Because you chose areas, I would say at least, where they were already kind of a big player on the market, Etsy, right? For Reverb, for instance, and for Pangobooks, I guess Amazon is also a
Oh
competitor
yeah,
in some
huge.
ways, right?
Yeah.
But you still went into the niche, right? Where many other founders would probably just think, okay, no, Amazon is already there, and like Etsy is already there. But which is it's just very interesting, right? That you had that vision,
Well,
right, for actually still
at the
being able to
time, at the
make a
time,
huge community.
the time in 2012, there was this saying when I launched Reverb, we were one of the few after Etsy, and then
Mhm.
became like there were sneaker marketplaces, the Real
Yep.
Real, like clothing marketplaces, like a
Yeah.
lot of them started to launch. We called it the dismantling of eBay. It was more about eBay trying to be all things to all people. It was pretty
Uh-huh.
evident that they weren't.
Uh-huh.
It was the same thing in online brokerage is
Uh-huh.
Charles Schwab was trying to be all things to all people. And clearly individual option traders wanted something more specific, right? So
Yep.
this idea, it's not that crazy of an idea. And you see way more of it in this specialization. And that's where I believe like Pango is really good at fiction
Uh-huh.
peer-to-peer book marketplace.
Uh-huh.
Who knows? Maybe there's going to be a really good nonfiction peer-to-peer marketplace that's not Pango. Maybe there'll be a really good rare peer-to-peer book marketplace. I don't know, like the idea that like niches within niches, like even Reverb's doing 1 billion in GMS. I know there are drum marketplaces and keyboard marketplaces and DJ equipment
That's the thing.
marketplaces that are going after Reverb, you know?
Mhm.
So
But
it
that's also
is
the thing,
kind
like,
of the
because sometimes,
evolution.
yeah, and sometimes you might think that what you're going out after is maybe too niche, but then suddenly you realize, okay, this is actually a bigger market than I thought suddenly, right? Because we can do this, this,
Community.
this, and like, so it's super interesting. Are there actually any areas or like underserved areas where you see some potential for building marketplace,
Well, I'm also
like some
an
opportunities,
investor and an
for like,
advisor in a sporting goods marketplace called
uh-huh,
SidelineSwap. I'm a board member and investor in that.
okay,
And it's peer-to-peer used sporting goods equipment. And they're doing
uh-huh,
really well.
uh-huh,
And that's been growing. So I like used goods. I like peer-to-peer.
uh-huh,
I talk to a lot of different marketplaces all the time,
uh-huh.
and I try to see if I have any relevant advice for them. So if you're building a marketplace and you're watching this video, like, sure, I'd love to hear from you. You can reach me, on LinkedIn or wherever. And I'm just curious, and I honestly sometimes I underestimate the potential of how niche these businesses can be, but I think there's still a lot of untapped ideas. Some of them are more in service oriented stuff where it's
Uh-huh.
like serving a community, more like more even an ethnic group, right? Different
Uh-huh.
ethnicities from people who gather certain things where it's like the product isn't that different than maybe the larger version, but it speaks to an audience, right? And
Yep.
I think that's really powerful in today's sort
Definitely,
of
definitely.
Amazon huge company
Yeah,
mentality,
but
this idea that like someone can speak to me, you know?
exactly, exactly. But also like that's just like so. Of course, everybody knows the big marketplaces, like so Amazon, Airbnb, and so on, right? But even within the Airbnb area, right? So we are using another marketplace where it's like you basically put your home up on this marketplace for free, and then like you can actually go to each other's houses for free, right? Which is like so
Mm,
you kind of remove
cool.
the payment there, right? But then there's like a yearly payment. That's how they earn money, and it's actually quite a big marketplace. There's so many niche areas where you can still, like move into this niche, but you can still suddenly build quite a big marketplace, maybe you don't realize it to begin with, right? But there's actually a lot of people who would like to use such a service. So it's very, very interesting. Yeah. And what about that? So let's move into the AI area, David, right? So like agents, for instance, right? Do you believe that we are all gonna be, well, I think I haven't built my own agent yet, right? But I will soon because I want to try it, right? But like I think like we're probably all gonna be using agents within the next year. So what do you think? Like, are there any areas on marketplaces where like, we can use agents to do some cool stuff? Like maybe it's like I was thinking this morning actually, like someone makes a listing, you then use an agent to kind of like uh, improve the listing maybe, right, somehow, and send that information back to the seller, and like that it automatically sends an email maybe with recommendations. If they click on that button, that is automatically then updated on that listing. There's so many cool things you can do with these agents, right? So I don't know, do
Yeah.
you have any thoughts on that area?
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because the founder of Pango, Grant, he's left Pango to go build something. You could pull it up by now. It's called Filtyr.ai, Filtyr.ai. And I'm a small partner in it, but it's really the idea of of automating for marketplaces. Yeah. There's a lot of agent opportunities within marketplaces, customer service, fraud detection,
Yep.
enhancing listings like you suggested,
Exactly.
even just like classifying listings and giving better data, saving the user generated content from doing it, supplementing inventory work, on and on and on. So I do believe in that. I'm still way more in the using programming engineering AI tools like Cursor,
Mm-hmm.
Claude, and
Cloud, yeah. It's amazing.
leveraging them to build product really fast and to be able to innovate, not just customer facing features, but
Mm-hmm.
internal features, again, refactoring,
Yep.
performance as a feature. So I'm still in the belief that like marketplaces can have incredible moats in an AI world.
Mm-hmm.
Humans want to, like, for instance, I still believe I wouldn't be investing all this money, time, and energy into Pango if I didn't believe that people wanted physical books and they wanted to buy them from other people.
Exactly.
I do believe that's a long game. And I
Mm-hmm.
believe that my opportunity is way more in leveraging LLMs and all the incredible engineering talent
Yep.
that is being packed into those agents,
Mm-hmm.
and it being able to accelerate our ability to do things. That to me is the most liberating
Yep.
and the most creative process. So me
Mm-hmm.
as a human being can get really
Yep.
creative in terms of what the product can and can't
Mm-hmm.
do, making things seem very magical to my users behind the scenes, things that we can do with agents that basically just improve the overall
Yep.
experience. Like
But
that's
that's the
what
thing, right? So
motivates me
I
right
think
now.
it
It's
will be like
exciting.
it's all about thinking as not just a developer. It's like more of a product kind of. You have to combine everything, right? So like, yeah, you're building a product, but you have to think in, like marketing as well. Like, how do we make the best experience for our users here, right? Is that by making this small feature here and so on, right? So yeah, it's super super interesting. And then what was easy to build a year ago now is you can do it maybe in an hour, right? But then so like that doesn't necessarily mean that you can build a good marketplace in 1 hour. You have to like think all of it through, right, and come up with exactly what is the right features for the audience you are trying to target, right? So it's interesting, right? Just the other day, by the way, I was watching a YouTube video of someone who was rebuilding Lovable, right? Like in 2 hours. So it's like the acceleration within this space is just going crazy, right? So
It
sometimes I do
is.
wonder like where we are in like 5 years. Right? But the
I
thing
mean, I
about
do feel
marketplaces
that
though is
like,
they're still going to be existing, right? Because it has always been. Now it's just, of course, you really see it now, right? But it's always the hard part about marketplaces has never been to actually build it, right? It's actually been to getting people to use it. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
So yeah,
true. So that gets you to the content side. So it's like,
yeah,
once again, I don't think AI generated content is actually works well in marketplaces. I
yeah,
think a lot giving your a small marketing team AI capabilities to
hmm,
direct good content, right,
yep,
is good. Well, once again, is this idea, same thing with music and videos, is this idea of letting creative people
hmm,
execute on some vision. Like AI is amazing. And that's kind of this separating the sort of like followers from the leaders in terms of like the next generation leaders, entrepreneurs and stuff. They're ones that are going to really figure out how to lean into leveraging and building and hiring the right people that don't necessarily want to code for 8 hours, but they want to build product for 8 hours, or
Exactly.
they want to produce really engaging music, not necessarily just type a prompt in and expect to get something magical. It's way more than that, as you know. If you're doing coding with Cursor, let's say, for example, like context engineering is a different skill. It is really a different skill. Leveraging my coding skills to be able to effectively build the product I want, but not letting my coding skills get in the way
For sure.
of trying to like build reusable components that don't need to be reusable anymore
Yep.
in an AI driven world. Like that's what you're seeing. You're seeing this transition of a lot of what we've learned on how to build product evolving. And it's those that can figure out how to evolve. And it's the same, the COBOL programmers of the 70s and 80s that,
Yep.
didn't really want to jump on the web in the 90s. Like I experienced that too. I'm old enough to have experienced that. So you're seeing this transition
Yep.
of people that say, oh, Cursor's good for some things, but not all things. I'm like, well, you need to spend more time with Cursor and see what you can see how
Yeah,
far you
exactly,
can
exactly.
go.
And actually, like the last 2 weeks, I think that now I have Cursor running, but now I also have Claude Code in another, tab, because now you can also Claude Code. They also released an SDK now, right? So you can have Claude Code,
Yeah.
you can have Cursor, and then you have the terminal, and it's amazing, man. It's because Claude Code right now, at least, it seems a little bit faster than Cursor. So yeah, again, it goes fast out there, right? But it's amazing what the way like what you can build now so quickly. It's just so much fun, right? So
Very awesome.
cool, David. But yeah, do you
Great
have any
chatting.
last
Really
like?
appreciate your time.
Yeah, so thank you so much. And where can people, David, find out more about you? You're not that active on Twitter, are you? Right? So it's more on LinkedIn, or?
LinkedIn, I think LinkedIn is the best place.
Yep.
DavidKalt.com. I have a little site. Reach out to me at Pango. I have
Okay.
a Pango shop called DK Shop. You can just
Yep.
message me there, buy a book from me. I'm not that hard to find, but I'm on X as well.
Yep.
I'm
Cool.
not super
I'll
active
add
there.
all the links in the description. So yeah, thank you so much, David, for taking your time to talk today. It was super inspiring to hear your story. So yeah, thank you so much, and keep in touch, right?
Cheers. Wish you the best too.